All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We're back with another video and back with vinyl finds once again. So these are vinyl finds, some left over from late last year and a few from this year, early 2022. So let's get right to it. Got a new one right off the top that I picked up. You've likely seen this presented on the VC. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. This is the double live album, the legendary 1979 No Nukes concerts. So there was a number of performers at the No Nukes concerts, and Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, one of them. Great double album. In terms of live recording, it's maybe not in terms of the best live recording that I've ever heard. However, the energy of the Boss and the E Street Band on this double album more than makes up for it. And it's got the nice raised lettering there. And it includes both a booklet and a poster, which is kind of nice. And here is the poster. Nice size on that one. Glenn Calloway has done a showing of the CD Blu-ray edition, which looks really, really great too. It'd be nice to see the Blu-ray edition of this, but really nice LP size booklet. And as I said, the band is just, it's just on fire. If you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, I would highly recommend this live recording. It is terrific. From 1979. Clarence Clemens. And I think that some pieces had been released before. There was, I think, a No Nukes concert, a live album that featured a number of the performers, but this is the first time they've released the entire Bruce Springsteen set, and there's the Boss with Jackson Browne there. That. But yeah, just really nice in terms of that. Very tired Bruce Springsteen on the back there. Yeah, so very nice. Happy to pick that one up. Also at my local record store, Sound Fixation, I did pick this up. I did not have a copy of Miles Davis' Bitches Brew. I don't even have a reissue of it. So this one was in the used bin, and not too bad in terms of the price. The vinyl is in terrific condition. The cover generally pretty good. The spine's okay, but when you open it up, the sort of the inner spine it seems to be missing. I can show you what I mean by that, which occasionally you get on some of these double albums. So yeah, the sort of the spine appears to be missing in there, but I mean the vinyl plays great, and it's such an absolute classic. Okay, more used vinyl. How about Bryan Ferry? And this is Another Time, Another Place. So this is Bryan Ferry doing covers like The In Crowd, which is interesting. He also does Walk a Mile in My Shoes, Funny How Time Slips Away, What a Wonderful World. Nice album from Bryan Ferry, and he was kind of ahead of the curve in terms of artists doing covers, that sort of thing. Eddie Money. This is an Eddie Money record from 1980 on CBS. He does kind of a reggae-inspired track called Running Back on this one. Not a lot of big hits on this one, and I believe it was after this album and this tour that he was hospitalized because of issues with alcohol and drugs, and I think there was some health issues going on at the time. The late, great Eddie Money. Great Canadian band, Chilliwack. And this is Chilliwack, Lights from the Valley. I want to say this is from the mid to late 70s on Mushroom Records. And Bill Henderson was like the main guy from Chilliwack. Great harmonies, great vocals. And this was the first album that Brian McLeod joined on. Brought kind of more guitars to the sound of the band. And then Brian McLeod would then leave to be part of Headpins. So Chilliwack. Okay, a Bob Seger record I didn't have. Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band with The Distance. A classic Bob Seger, Shame on the Moon, featured on that one. Here's a band that really should have been a bigger hit, or a bigger on the scene, if you will, the band Stars. And this is on Capitol Records from 1976, produced by Jack Douglas. All the right things going for it. Good heavy sound, good vocals, but for whatever reason, this band just didn't seem to go on to that next level for whatever reason. But yeah, happy to pick. I'd seen that album cover many, many times, but never had come across it until now. I don't usually buy 12-inch singles, but this is The Spoons, a Canadian band from the Toronto area. the 12-inch for Nova Heart. And in fact, Nova Heart was one of their big radio songs. And Nova Heart also got a reissue not too long ago. It was kind of like a 30th anniversary reissue where they did a whole bunch of different mixes and remixes of Nova Heart. So this is a 12-inch that plays at 45 RPM that has just the one song, Nova Heart. And then the B-side is Symmetry. And the B-side, the reason I did pick it up is that the B-side doesn't appear on any Spoons album. So there you go, the Spoons. Okay, from Traffic fame, Blind Faith, and Ginger Baker's Air Force, Rick Gretsch. And now often you see Rick spelled without the K, but here it's Rick Gretsch. And this is The Last 5 Years. So again, covers Blind Faith, his work with Ginger Baker's Air Force, and of course Traffic as well. And this is on RCO, sorry. Or RSO, there we go, RSO, Robert Stigwood organization. And this is very much in the same style as a lot of the sort of the Ginger Baker best ofs or Eric Clapton best ofs, where they kind of do a slight career overview. But it's a nice record. Okay, Brownsville Station. Of course, remember the song Smokin' in the Boys' Room. So this is just a self-titled Brownsville Station album. It's not their debut album. This is from 1977 on Quality Records Canada, Private Stock Records. But forget how rockin' this band is. And there's one track on here, Sleazy Louise, that honestly could have been an Alice Cooper song. It just has that sound and that vibe. I like kind of the photography there. And produced by Eddie Kramer. And this is 1977, which is interesting. And Eddie Kramer would have been quite busy with Kiss at this time as well. But Brownsville Station. A little bit of Blue-Eyed Soul for you. Always enjoyed the band Blues Image. Loved the song Ride, Captain Ride. And this is Red, White, and Blues Image. And so this is on Atco. And just a great sound, great band that gets kind of forgotten about, Blues Image. Okay, John Waite, he had the big hit Missing You, John Waite, formerly of the Babies, and this is the album that came after the hit Missing You. This is Mask of Smiles. And not a bad album, but he just didn't really seem to follow up the big hit Missing You with something big, and there's just not something captured on this record, although he does a nice cover of the track Ain't That Peculiar. But again, no big hits off this one, but this did include the original inner sleeve and a nice poster inside as well. And especially, you don't often get the posters included in used records, but this is a nice size poster for sure. Let's see if we can get this all in here. And here he is lounging. Okay, John Waite. And this is from, I want to say, 1985, something like, 1985. Okay, here's another artist. I don't usually pick up her stuff, but I do particularly like this album from the late Nancy Griffith. This is Lone Star State of Mind. Now, Nancy started off, I think, a bit more of a folk artist and then kind of moved over into country. This contains, of course, the title track, Lone Star State of Mind, but it also has the song From a Distance, which, of course, Bette Midler would cover and turn it into a massive hit. But, I like Nancy Griffith's vocals and just her general sound. Lone Star State of Mind on MCA from 1987. Okay, Stephen Stills albums, Stephen Stills, and this is Stephen Stills 2, I believe. And I've always been a big fan of the first track, Turn Back the Pages. Again, Stephen Stills. Featured also on here is David Crosby and Graham Nash. They're featured on a track. And it's just got a great Stephen Stills sound overall. Can't go wrong. Stephen Stills. Okay, here's something a little different. This is a soundtrack to the film Party Party. This is a UK film. And when did this come out? Do you think the 80s? Possibly, yes. This came out, this was on A&M Records. From the year, I want to say 1980. It doesn't seem to say here. It's got to say it on here somewhere. My goodness. Let's maybe take a look inside. So this album is interesting. It features pretty much all covers. So you got Dave Edmunds doing Run Rudolph Run. You've got Bad Manners doing Yakety Yak. You've got Sting doing Tutti Frutti. Midge Ure, The Man Who Sold the World. You've got Pauline Black, No Woman, No Cry. Chaz and Dave with Old Lang Syne. So it's pretty much kind of all generally all covers. But yeah, a big kind of UK movie from the 80s, kind of in that John Hughes vein. And this on A&M Records, as I mentioned. But what is the year on this? It's got to be looks like 1982. I thought maybe it was a little bit later, but yeah, 1982. Okay. An early enough Rod Stewart album that I didn't have, Rod Stewart and Atlantic Crossing. Of course, the very symbolic cover where he's clearly stepping away from the UK, from England, and moving on over to possibly New York or Los Angeles. I guess probably New York. But yeah, so there you go, Rod Stewart. And this was, I believe, his first album on the Atlantic or Warner label. And this one was produced by Tom O'Dowd and features the hit Sailing and I Don't Want to Talk About It. And of course, the cover of This Old Heart of Mine. But yeah, good cover on that one. Okay, as much as I love Steve Hackett, this is kind of a forgettable Steve Hackett album. If you're looking to get more Steve Hackett albums, I think there's better ones to be found. This is the album Cured, and this is really Steve Hackett. A lot more vocals on this one, and a lot more him trying to kind of branch out into a more commercial sound, which doesn't really work. Kind of almost a very pedestrian cover, if you will, Steve Hackett Cured. I mean, I love Steve Hackett, great guitarist, incredible musician, great performer, but yeah, not one of his best. Okay, I've talked about this band before, Mental as Anything, and I've just really been enjoying. I've been able to pick up a few of their albums recently, quite inexpensively. So this is Creatures of Leisure, with a fun cover, and Mouth to Mouth. And I mean, this is kind of, it's 87, mid 80s, 83. You can really compare them to Men at Work, but it's maybe not quite a fair comparison. They do have that similar sort of sound, but I have really enjoyed the sort of pop sounds of Mental as Anything from Australia. Okay, a Deep Purple album in terms of the Deep Purple reissues on Rhino, an album that I didn't even know existed, Last Concert in Japan. So this came out actually in 1977 as a tribute to a guitarist, Tommy Bolin, who had since passed, and this was one of the last tours or last shows with Tommy Bolin. Now, as I recall reading, Glenn Hughes is not a fan of this album or doesn't think it should have been released, saying that Tommy Bolin was in no shape to perform. But having said that, and maybe it's the mix or whatever, but the band is still sounding great. So this is a part of the Purple Vinyl Rhino reissues. But Deep Purple, Last Concert in Japan from 1977. As I said, I didn't even know that album existed. Okay, I picked up a couple of Tangerine Dream albums. We've got Tangerine Dream and Tangram, Tangram. And we've got classic Tangerine Dream, Rubicon. And this Rubicon is such a creepy sounding album. If you want to get the party going, put on Rubicon. No, don't don't do that. But this is a bit more of the sort of Tangerine Dream sound of the 80s. Yeah, there you go. Both on Virgin Records, Tangerine Dream. Okay, here's an artist that has put out a few albums, but I'm not really familiar with this artist. I'd like to check out more of Robert Gordon, and this is Bad Boy. So Robert Gordon definitely has a lot of that kind of rockabilly, rock revival kind of sound on here. Really enjoyable to listen to. So this is 1980. If you like that kind of 80s early rockabilly kind of revival sound, worth checking out for sure. Okay, Canadian blues band, Dutch Mason Blues Band, and this is Wish Me Luck. And this is actually on London Records, and this was from 1979. Dutch Mason just had a great vocal sound, classic sort of blues vocal sound. Interesting, a number of covers, of course, on here, blues covers like Dust My Broom, also Polk Salad Annie and Barefootin'. But what he does, he kind of spins them. Like if it's a fast kind of blues song or real up kind of blues song, he'll slow it down, or vice versa. If it's a slow song, he'll kind of speed it up. But worth checking out if you're not familiar with Dutch Mason Blues Band. Good stuff, although not always easy to find. And another Canadian artist, King Biscuit Boy, a harp player. And this is a self-titled album from I want to say mid-70s or early 70s. It's kind of worn off here. Yeah, 1974. This is also known as the Brown Derby album, hence the pictures here. But harp player and did a lot of stuff with Crowbar. And this album arranged and produced by Alan Toussaint. But yeah, 1974 on this one. Okay, how about Marianne Faithfull? Nice album. This is Strange Weather, and this very much, you could say, like the Brian Ferry album from earlier. So this is, as it says on the back here, portions of this album, the fabulous Marianne Faithfull takes up where people like Marlene Dietrich left off. And that's really kind of the vibe. It's that classic kind of old school diva sound. And there's the track listing. And then she also does a cover, again, of her song As Tears Go By. She's the one that had the initial hit with it, the Rolling Stones or Mick Jagger, Keith Richards song, As Tears Go By. And then she does it in more of that sort of Marlene Dietrich, Edith Piaf kind of thing. It's a nice, moody album for sure. Okay, the Byrds, and younger today than yesterday, absolute classic. This is a mono copy, which I was thrilled with. Not in the best shape. The cover is fine, but the album has definitely been previously enjoyed, but happy to pick up any Byrds, which are getting kind of harder and harder to find albums from the Byrds. Okay, how about Pretty Things, and this is Savage Eye, and this is Pretty Things with Jack Green on the Swan Song label. Great UK band. Quite the cover, and Pretty Things. Okay, lately I've been able to pick up some Bonnie Raitt albums, and certainly I do like the early Bonnie Raitt albums, and this is Give It Up, and this is on Warner from 1972, and I think there was initial problems with the initial producer, was it, of this album, and then she just decided to go with another producer. That could have been another album. There's so many Bonnie Raitt albums. I might be mixing that up with another one, but yeah, Bonnie Raitt and Give It Up. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, some good stuff on here. Always some interesting covers. She does a Jackson Browne song on here too called Under the Falling Sky. And she usually does have a number of guest stars on her albums. Not as many as on this one. But yeah, Bonnie Raitt, always worth checking out. Okay, here's something a little different. How about the Rascals? And this is Freedom Suite from 1968. Nice silvery cover here. And this is a double album. And this contains the hit People Gotta Be Free, again, talking about the great Blue-Eyed Soul. However, the first album is great, lots of vocals and that sort of classic Rascals sound. But then the second album is basically just 3 songs, Adrian's Birthday, Boom, and Cute, and they're all instrumentals. Adrian's Birthday takes up the one side, and it's a lot of long drums, long percussion stuff that's not really making you think of the Rascals. I'm surprised they didn't maybe re-release this as just a single album and then maybe forget about this second album, but I am glad I picked this up. I got this for just $5, so I was pretty happy with that. The Rascals took a chance because I knew People Gotta Be Free, but overall, like the first album is pretty solid, but then the second album, it's like interesting, but there you go. Okay, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young So Far, early greatest hits package from 1974 on Atlantic. Covers maybe not in the best of shape, but the album plays fine, and of course it's just such a nice early best of. And picked up Crosby and Nash live, and this is a really nice live record when you've got Immigration Man, I Used to Be a King, Deja Vu, Simple Man, David Crosby and Graham Nash together for some live stuff there. And how about some great psych soul with the Chamber Brothers? I was really happy to come across this because I never come across Chamber Brother albums. And this is A New Time and a New Day. And of course, a number of covers on here. I Can't Turn You Loose, I Wish It Would Rain. And yes, they do a cover of Where Have All the Flowers Gone, believe it or not. But only in the style of the Chamber Brothers. So good stuff. Great band. And that band is featured, as I recall, in the Summer of Soul movie. Worth checking out. Okay, here's a thrift store buy. It's Dean Martin and French Style. And this is a number of sort of either French songs or songs inspired by France that done only as old Dino can do it. And this is an import copy. This is distributed by Pi, but I think this might be either a Dutch or a German pressing. But yeah, it's in terrific shape, so picking that up from the thrift store. Okay, picked up some Ellen Foley albums, and ironically, with Meatloaf passing, Ellen Foley, of course, is featured on Bat Out of Hell, particularly with Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. But these are three albums from Ellen Foley from the late 70s, early 80s, and really enjoyed this one. Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson featured on this one, and this one features The Clash, a number of songs co-written by Joe Strummer, and features the band The Clash under sort of, different names or pseudonyms, that sort of thing. But it's a shame they couldn't have really marketed it as Ellen Foley and The Clash. But yeah, so some Ellen Foley records. I really think she had a great voice, and she was on the first season of the show Night Court. I was going to say Night Heat, but on the show Night Court. Okay, surprised to come across this. I remember when this was released, Fun Boy 3, and from 1982, and I remember the video and the song The Lunatics Have Taken Over the Asylum, and I thought, what on earth is that? Of course, former members of the Specials and Bananarama is featured on here. I do like that back cover. I think that's a lot of fun. But Fun Boy 3. Okay, it's interesting how few Who albums there are, but how many Roger Daltrey solo albums there are. And here's a couple more. We got Roger Daltrey, One from the Boys, where he does a Paul McCartney song called Giddy on this one. And then you've got Roger Daltrey, Parting Should Be Painless, and that's pretty much in reference to when the Who was pretty much broken up following the death of Keith Moon, and after a couple of albums with Kenny Jones. I believe that's what that was referring to then. Again, it's Roger Daltrey solo stuff. It's generally good. Okay, Doobie Brothers, Taking It to the Streets. Surprisingly, I didn't have this album until now. So, of course, it features Taking It to the Streets with Michael McDonald in the fold. And if you have seen their sort of lockdown series with the Doobie Brothers, you got to check out their fairly recent version of Taking It to the Streets with Michael McDonald. It's kind of the lockdown sessions, but it's the musicianship on it, and they're just still sounding great after all these years, Doobie Brothers, and Taking It to the Streets. Okay, always happy to pick up the Marshall Tucker Band, and this is Searching for a Rainbow. A little bit more country for this one, from 1975 on Capricorn. But yeah, Marshall Tucker Band, always enjoy. And always enjoy Leon Russell. And this was a previously sealed album, Life and Love, and I think this must have been, this was on the shrink, so this isn't actually part of the record. I don't know what the deal is with that, if that was like a price sticker sort of thing or whatever. But this, of course, is it Paradise Records, and distributed through Warner from 1979. Leon Russell, sounding great on this one. He always sounds great. Okay, a couple of Bruce Coburn albums. Singer-songwriter, Canada's Bruce Coburn. So we're going early 70s on this one. Two significant albums. That this features kind of the transition of Bruce Coburn going from sort of solo acoustic folk stuff into more of a band sound. And then down the road, he would incorporate more world rhythms. So this is Bruce Coburn, In the Falling Dark. Silver Wheels is featured on this one. And this is Bruce Coburn, Further Adventures of. And the track Laughter is featured on this one as well. And there's a new Bruce Coburn Best Of. I think it's only out on CD, but it's sort of Best of Bruce Coburn, or Bruce Coburn's Greatest Hits from 1970 to 2020. So it's only a 2 CD set. It's a nice overview, considering that's a lot of, he's had quite a career. Probably should have been a 3 CD set at the very least, but that might be worth picking up as well. Okay, another Canadian band, Moxie, another great Canadian band from the 70s that gets forgot about. If you like good rockin' stuff, definitely worth checking out. And this is on Polydor, I want to say from the late 70s or 77. Just great rockin' band. Moxie and Ridin' High. And another great Canadian artist is Elisa Delbello, and this is the album, or when she just was going by Delbello at this point, but this is Human Forces, or it's kind of a takeoff on Human Forces, I believe. She was going for a completely different sound. Her early sound was kind of disco pop, and then she went more kind of new wave kind of thing. A few songs have been covered on here. I believe the one track has been covered by Heart. I think the song, is it Animal? That was covered by Heart, but Mick Ronson produced this album. Mick Ronson also plays, and she's an artist definitely worth checking out, Elisa Delbello. Okay, here is an unusual best of, if you will. This is from a series called Historia de la Musica Rock, and this is Best of Genesis. Essentially, this is just the first Genesis album. Trespass was their second album, so this is their first album. It's just kind of a reissued from Genesis to Revelation, with, though, the song One-Eyed Hound, which was a B-side, and it's not available on the generally most copies of the Genesis from Genesis to Revelation. But that's pretty much all this is. It's a repackaging of the first Genesis album. But gotta love early Genesis. And how about Billy Preston? This is Billy Preston. Of course, Billy Preston, seeing as part of the Beatles Get Back documentary. So this is Billy Preston, and I think this is just a self-titled album. But this is when he was on A&M Records, and the track Do What You Want was a track originally from his debut on Apple, and so he does sort of a cover of that song as well. Another fun Billy Preston album. Good stuff. Okay, a thrift store buy, The Seekers, and Hey There, Georgie Girl. I just love that pop song. I think it just I love the vocals. I think it just captures that time, and of course, indicative of albums where you've got at least a hit or two, and then it's a lot of covers to kind of fill up the album. But they do California Dreamin' and Yesterday. Red Rubber Ball, they do a cover of that as well. But The Seekers and Georgie Girl. Just kind of captures a forgotten time. Okay, we have not one, but two early Paul Simon records. So we've got Paul Simon all ready for winter time, that's for sure, with this one. And then we got Paul Simon Still Crazy After All These Years. Two, terrific albums. And it's interesting with Paul Simon's first solo album, when you've got Mother and Child Reunion, Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard. That's really, it's interesting. It's such a break from the Simon and Garfunkel that it's really setting the template for a lot of the world rhythms that would be incorporated in Paul Simon's music. So there's that, and then Still Crazy After All These Years, and then forgot that My Little Town is on here, where he does vocals with Art Garfunkel. And then he also has the track Gone at Last, which was a hit that features Phoebe Snow. So two solid Paul Simon albums. Okay, always got to like Trooper, Canada's Trooper. This is Two for the Show, another solid Trooper album. What's interesting, though, for this, it starts off with the ballad Two for the Show, which Trooper, they're known for their ballads, but they're also a good rockin' band as well. But The Boys in the Bright White Sports Car, which is such a great song, is the last track on side one. Now, it's a different mix, so I think when they did the single, they did remix it differently. It doesn't seem to have as much punch on this one, but it just seems odd to start it off with a ballad, and then you've got such an obvious opener like Boys in the Bright White Sports Car. But Trooper, Two for the Show. I don't know if they wanted to do that thing with the cover, but from 1976. Okay, Chris Rea, On the Beach. I really enjoy Chris Rea. This is a pretty mellow album, even by Chris Rea standards, I would think. On the Beach, of course, the title track, and from 1986, Chris Rea. Okay, we're all over the map here. How about Culture Club and Waking Up with the House on Fire? Lots going on with the front cover and the back cover here. Boy George, great vocalist. Now this was definitely on the way down in terms of for Culture Club, when they were at this point. Really, it was a lot of overexposure for the band. And the War Song, which was the hit from this, is not the strongest song. Much better track is Mistake Number 3, which is featured. Overall, the album is fairly decent, but the War Song, not the best song, and this was definitely suffering from overexposure, maybe too much material coming out at that particular time. So this is from 1984. But Culture Club. Okay, another Kansas album. Boy, a great band that had so many albums out. And you keep forgetting that Steve Morris was featured in Kansas. Of course, would later go on with Deep Purple. But this is Kansas on MCA from 1986. Another Chicago album. This one, not a great one. This is Chicago. And what number are we on for this one? And let me just take it out of the sleeve here. So this is Chicago, and this one's got the original inner sleeve. Again, this is late 70s Chicago, when they were really still kind of trying to find their way after, you know, such a successful career from the late 60s and early 70s. And then, of course, they would then be hooking up with David Foster for good or for bad, with radio hits after that. But this one is just kind of, I don't know, nothing really seems to gel on this particular album. But yeah, Chicago. And unless this is a self-titled album, I'm not seeing the number on this one. But yeah, I thought, because they usually, oh, there we go. Chicago, lucky number 13. So there you go. Maybe the too many forces were against them at that point. Okay, I always enjoy Joan Armatrading, and this is The Key. And it's got a little kind of almost raised little or silver little key there. You can't remove it or anything like that. But I just enjoy Joan Armatrading. I think she just has a great sound and terrific performer. The Key, and this from 1983. Okay, great blues sound. I'm telling you, this band is really, doesn't get the credit it deserves. Just a great band, great blues rock band, always fun. The Fabulous Thunderbirds, T-Bird Rhythm, and just when you put it on, man, it's just great party music. And yeah, always enjoy the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Always enjoy the Lost Leaders releases from Warner Brothers. Now this one, I was happy to come across it, and I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Schlagers. I can't think of any other way to pronounce it. So the Lost Leaders on the Warner Brothers records, these were albums that you mailed away for. I don't know if these were available to mail away for in Canada. I'm not sure. It's definitely like a US thing, and where they feature a lot of the Warner Brothers artists that they'd wanted to spotlight at the time. So these are all like compilations, but this one is really a middle of the road compilation, because these are interesting. That some of the ones, especially the rock ones, are absolutely terrific. But this one features Rod McEwen, Joni Mitchell. You've got the Neon Philharmonic. You've got Randy Newman, Peter, Paul and Mary, Mike Post Coalition. You've got Frank Sinatra from Reprise. You've got the Vogues and Mason Williams, Glenn Yarborough. So this is definitely kind of a middle of the road thing going on. But I really enjoy these Lost Leader albums. And as I say, you don't often see them up in Canada, and I'm pretty sure that this is an American press as well, so happy to come across that. Always enjoy picking up any Procol Harum, and this is Procol Harum and Exotic Birds and Fruit, with a very exotic cover. But of course, Procol Harum with Gary Brooker, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Okay, how about the Commodores, and the Commodores in the pocket? And definitely in the pocket, shall we say. Still Lionel Richie with the band, but this one, Lady, You Bring Me Up. Again, you know, with the Commodores starting to get into the late 70s, with more Lionel Richie ballads happening, so you have the track Oh No featured on here as well. But man, when they wanted to get, you know, still up and funky, they could still do it. Like Lady, You Bring Me Up is just a great track. For sure. Okay, Bonnie Raitt, and I should have had this with the other Bonnie Raitt album. Maybe this is the album I was thinking of, that there was some issue with the producer, so she got a different producer. I think it was this record. This is Bonnie Raitt and Taking My Time. So maybe she was just taking her time and getting things right. So again, another great early Bonnie Raitt album on Warner Brothers. This one produced by John Hall, and there's a number of guest stars featured on this one. As well, you've got Taj Mahal is featured, and yeah, it's just another great early Bonnie Raitt album. And there's the back there, a little bit of ring wear, but that's all right. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Okay, took a chance with this one in terms of a Fat Chance. This is a band called Fat Chance. Not a lot of information out there about this band, but if you like Chicago or Lighthouse, this band kind of has that vibe. This was a really enjoyable album. I really... I'm glad I picked this one up, but when you're looking at the cover, you're thinking, no, you don't quite know what to expect. But a surprisingly decent record, a Fat Chance. This may have been their only album from 1972 on RCA, and this is a Dynaflex album, but I'm not going to bend it like Mazzy did with those Dynaflex records on the one video, the one he bent the Lou Reed album. Oh my goodness! But yeah, Fat Chance, not the most striking of covers, but again, you can't judge a book by the cover. And again, if you like Chicago, Lighthouse, that sort of thing, nice horns going on, really very enjoyable. Okay, I've seen this one, I don't know why, come up a few times. And this particular album from JoJo Gunn and Bite Down Hard, good rockin' stuff featuring former members of the band Spirit, including Jay Ferguson. Of course, Jay Ferguson would then later go on to have the hit Thunder Island. But good rockin' stuff, great vocals. And for some reason, I've seen this album. I don't know, of all the JoJo Gunn albums, I've seen this album come up a fair bit. I don't know why. It's just one of those things on Asylum Records. Okay, I couldn't believe my luck in terms of a Fairport Convention album. Love Fairport Convention. I've picked up a lot of their stuff on CDs, on some of those 5 CD kind of little specialty things, the inexpensive ones, fairly inexpensive. But this is Fairport Convention and Rising for the Moon. And this is where Sandy Denny is with the band. I believe she had left and then got back with the band. Also, of course, Dave Pegg and Dave Maddox are featured on here. Those guys would then go on to play with Jethro Tull. If you can pick up the 2 CD version of this, the 2 CD version has a live album as the second CD where they do just a beautiful version of Knocking on Heaven's Door with Sandy Denny on lead vocals on that one, which is just stunning. But this is, again, really nice, and they do a version of, on this one, is that featured on this one or not? Maybe not. But yeah, it's an absolutely lovely album. I think there's a song that's featured on the CDs that features some extra tracks that aren't on this one. But yeah, enough said on that. Fairport Convention and Rising for the Moon. Okay, the good, the bad, and the very odd. I don't know why I picked up this album. This is Canadian, the Erotic Drum Band. A very kind of water-damaged cover. And this was on the Uni label. It features Love Disco Style on side 1, and then a couple of tracks. I think this album is actually called Action 78. Came out in 1978, and it is forgettable. It's that kind of disco-y sound, and not in a good way, but yeah. We all make mistakes. Okay, I was happy to pick this one up. This is Donovan and Cosmic Wheels. Wasn't familiar with this Donovan album, and certainly with this artist who's gone through many different musical styles and phases. This one, he's kind of embracing the sort of glam rock thing, Cosmic Wheels, and yeah, I was really happy with this one. And this one, I think, for the most part, featured all the sort of, like the sort of, you could color that in if you wish, and then on the nice inner sleeve like this, and then it's got this kind of nice inclusion here, but quite the picture here, Cosmic Wheels, and then it's got lyrics on the back like that. So for a used album, it featured all the at least all or most of the goodies inside. But yeah, it was a good record overall in terms of Donovan and Cosmic Wheels. And that's the nice thing with Donovan albums. You can generally find them inexpensively. Okay, as we keep on trucking here, Uriah Heep, and this is Sweet Freedom on Warner Brothers label. Uriah Heep from 1973. And we've got a Beach Boys in concert album. I forgot how great this double live album is. And this is actually from, it's a nice, interesting period for the band where they had Ricky Fattar and Blondie Chaplin as part of the band. Sail on Sailor. The band is sounding great. So if you can check out, if you don't have this and you're a Beach Boys fan, I forgot how good this is. Marcella, And they're still doing Good Vibrations, Sloop John B, but, Sail On Sailor, band sounded really good on that one. Okay, we've got Dave Mason, and this is It's Like You Never Left. So another great Dave Mason album. Dave Mason, of course, formerly of Traffic, and quite an extensive solo career. Here's an album I picked up and put on, and this is one of the few albums that my wife had said, oh, wow, what's that? This is The Persuasions, and We Still Ain't Got No Band. The Persuasions, that I understand, were pretty much discovered by Frank Zappa, if you will. Very much an a cappella, or just a predominantly vocal group. A lot of those sort of classic covers on here, including Chapel of Love. And they have a song called Good Old A Cappella, Send Me Some Lovin's covered on here, a Sam Cooke song, Love You Most of All, but great harmonies. And then the Persuasions, or one of the versions of the Persuasions, did an album with Bare Naked Ladies not too long ago, but the Persuasions, and We Still Ain't Got No Band, but great vocal harmonies. Okay, here's a band I never get to find in the wild, the Isley Brothers, and this is Go for the Guns, another terrific Isley Brothers album. The Pride, Part 1 and 2, Climbing Up the Ladder, Part 1 and 2, some nice extended stuff on here. Go for your guns, solid. Isley Brothers. Okay, and here's another artist I never come across, but how about Rita Mcneil? And this is, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this, Harambe, and it says brackets, Working Together for Freedom. I think this is pretty much, I don't know if this is a major label or not released. This is distributed in Canada by Boot Records, so I'm thinking this was pretty much like an indie release. But man, sounding great on this, wonderful reggae music, and the recording is terrific. The bass on this album is really outstanding. So yeah, Rita Mcneil, was really happy to pick that one up. Okay, I've just completed the Carlos Santana autobiography, and I really enjoyed it. And of course, one of the records he talks about that I didn't have previously was Blues for Salvador, and Salvador is his son. So I was happy to pick up this one. Another solid Carlos Santana album. Okay, interesting one for this one. Humble Pie, didn't have this one before. Humble Pie, of course, with the late great Steve Marriott, and Go for the Throat. And this was one of the last ones with the configuration of the band with Steve Marriott. I think they would attempt to go out on tour, and then Steve Marriott had some health issues at the time, and then would be sidelined quite for an extensive period of time after that, and then they were dropped from their label after this. But this is, despite the kind of, I don't want to say, 1981. It's got kind of an 80s kind of cover. Great album. Worth picking up. And usually you can find this one pretty inexpensively. But if you're thinking, it's great. It's really Humble Pie getting back in that solid kind of R&B sort of thing. Pretty solid album. I was pleasantly surprised with it. As opposed to the Small Faces reunion, this is the album Playmates, and this is where they were reunited. Steve Marriott, Ian McClagan, and Kenny Jones. Unfortunately, Ronnie Lane was initially part of these sessions, but then dropped out because there was arguments with the band, and then Ronnie Lane's health issues would become apparent, that sort of thing. And this is it's a struggle with this album. It's just, again, the Small Faces just kind of trying to find their way in the 70s. So this is from 1977 on Atlantic. They would do 2 reunion albums. I think the other album was maybe a little bit better than this one. I can't recall what the other album is called, but this one did have the inner sleeve, which was quite nice because I'd never seen this picture of the band. So they have Rick Wills, who then took over on bass, but I've never seen a 70s Small Faces photo like that. So yeah, it's just a shame that they couldn't make it work better, sort of thing. Of course, Steve Marriott would then go back with Humble Pie. Okay, always happy to pick up any War albums. I have the first one of this, and this is War, the Music Band #2. And so it's got the nice kind of raised lettering here on the front and on the back, and then they do a nice version of The World is a Ghetto on here, a new instrumental version of it. But yeah, War, just great band. Okay, Stephen Stills and Neil Young, the Stills Young Band, classic album that features Long May You Run. Just a wonderful album. It's just amazing. And I know there was always issues and fighting and with Stephen Stills and Neil Young, certainly from the Buffalo Springfield days and then the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young days. But it's just a shame when you hear this album with the two of them that they couldn't have made more records together, because Stills and Young, and they have such a respect for each other. It's just a shame that there aren't more Stills Young albums out there. Okay, I had to buy this album. Had to buy it. I've seen the cover so many times. I got to admit, I do like the title track, but this is, here we go. This is Herbie Mann and Push Push. Wow. I mean, the cover speaks for itself, but the first, and it's all like jazzy kind of flute stuff, but the first track, or the title track, Push Push, is actually pretty good. Now, the rest of the album, I like side one, side two, not so much. It just seems to get a little bit too mellow then, but yeah, the only cover, Herbie Mann and Push Push. Okay, It's a Beautiful Day. Always enjoy picking up any It's a Beautiful Day albums, and this is live performance from Carnegie Hall from the year, I want to say the 70s, from 1972. Wasn't even familiar with this. I didn't know that there was any live It's a Beautiful Day stuff, but there you go. Okay, always enjoy picking up Slade albums. Maybe not one of my favorite Slade albums. This is Rogues Gallery. However, I think I like the photography on the back and the front. I think the band's actually looking pretty sharp, shall we say, with Naughty there. But yeah, not huge hits off this one. Not like the songs that you associate with Slade from the late 70s, early 80s. And this is on CBS from 1985. But not bad, not bad. Okay, something totally obscure here. This is a London, Ontario band called Lowdown. They used to play the bars across southwestern Ontario, and they had, I think, just one full-length LP, a few singles overall. As you can see, they were kind of a rockin' kind of covers band. This is predominantly all covers. Tossin' and Turnin', Be My Baby, Silhouettes. And this is from, I want to say, the early 80s, and this was recorded in London, Ontario. Again, with hats off to things like, hats off to the Kiwanis, Optimists, Junior Farmers. So they would play bars and all the kind of, fundraising organizations, that sort of thing. But generally pretty good. I mean, not super great, but generally good. Okay, and the band Renaissance, and this is In the Beginning. And so this is a reissue of their early albums, not their first albums, but a reissue of Prologue and Ashes Are Burning. So one of those kind of cheaper reissue series of some early albums. In the Beginning, I do love Renaissance. I just think they got just that great sort of folk progressive sound. Okay, speaking of another band that's just got a great sound, is the band Family, and this is It's Only a Movie. Very interesting cover, but again, from the UK, great sort of that sort of proggy sounds of Family. And an artist I'd heard but was not really familiar with is Brian Auger, and this is the best of Brian Auger. So this predominantly is on, what's the label here? It's a Canadian press, but on RCA. So this features mainly Brian Auger's Oblivion Express stuff, but kind of very, very jazzy, kind of jazz rock sort of thing. But an artist I'll definitely have to explore a little bit more is Brian Auger. This should have been a great album. This is Orchestral Tubular Bells. Of course, Mike Oldfield with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and Mike Oldfield is featured on guitar on this album. But reading about this, it just doesn't seem to go with the original album, because this should have worked, but it just is lacking something, and maybe it's just the orchestral treatment which makes it too kind of stodgy and stiff, that sort of thing. And I think Mike Oldfield wrote that he was not happy with the end result for this, although Mike Oldfield is often not happy with the end result of a lot of things. But yeah, this should have been a much better album. And speaking of the late Meatloaf, picked up Todd Rundgren and Healing. Of course, Todd Rundgren produced a Bat Out of Hell, and great Todd Rundgren album, where each the title track Healer is terrific, and each album is just a single single name title, but was taking the album. Now the jacket's a little water damaged, but when I was taking it, I was like, there's something extra in here. So this was on the Bearsville label, but this also included the single that was, so this is like extended stuff that didn't fit on the album. They included as a double side, or side A and side B, 33 1/3 single. Now again, this I believe is the original sleeve, so it's not in the best of shape, but that's the extra music that was initially issued with the album. So that was a pleasant surprise, because I didn't know this album contained an additional single or at one time, but was happy to come across that. Okay, that is going to do it for this one. Thanks so much for dropping by, and we'll chat again. Take care. Bye-bye.